Picture this: a thriving food truck business goes up in flames. A community rallies, donating over $100,000 to support the devastated owner. The date was October 3, 2021. The early hours of the morning were shattered by the sight of Avante Hartsfield's beloved food truck, Rollin' Roots, engulfed in a fiery inferno. The vehicle, parked off a Moore Street in Kearney Mesa, was declared a total loss. A once bustling hub of vegan delights reduced to charred rubble and unfulfilled orders. In the aftermath of the fire, Hartsfield turned to the power of social media and the generosity of GoFundMe. He shared his heartbreaking story, and the community responded. His plea echoed through the digital landscape, pulling at heartstrings and opening wallets. The donations came pouring in, eventually totaling over $100,000. Included in this wave of support was a substantial $20,000 donation from the Saikuan Band of the Kumeyaay Nation. Hartsfield didn't stop at sharing his loss. He voiced his fears of being targeted, of being a victim of hate crime. He detailed incidents of break-ins, vandalism, and theft that had plagued his business just before the fire. He even spoke of finding what he believed to be a noose. The narrative of a black man targeted and persecuted resonated, amplifying the community's outrage and support. But as the ashes cooled, suspicions began to rise. Could this heartbreaking event be more sinister than it first appeared? As the flames died down and the smoke cleared, the lens of scrutiny turned towards the victim. The community's hero was about to become the subject of a relentless investigation. An investigation that would reveal a trail of evidence leading right back to where it all started: the devastating fire. In the aftermath, the police began their investigation, and what they found was puzzling. The first step in any investigation is to establish the facts. In this case, the facts were obscured by the remnants of a devastating fire that had consumed a popular food truck. The charred remains of the truck held few clues, but the surrounding area proved to be a treasure trove of evidence. The investigators' attention was drawn to a surveillance video from a nearby business. The footage was grainy, captured in the dead of night, but it held the first tantalizing clues to the mystery. It showed a barefoot man with his face obscured, approaching the truck, which was conveniently out of frame. Then the man retreated, heading in the opposite direction. In the space where he had been, there was a sudden flash of light, quickly intensifying into the blaze that would engulf the truck. But that wasn't all. The same surveillance video captured a car matching Hartsfield's in the vicinity both before and after the fire. This was a significant piece of evidence, aligning Hartsfield with the incident in both time and place. But was it conclusive? Not quite. After all, Hartsfield could have been a mere bystander, a victim of circumstance. The investigation then took a turn towards the digital realm. A search of Hartsfield's Google account revealed a series of fire-related searches. Among them, a particularly troubling query: quick car explosion. This search was made about a week before the fire. It was a virtual breadcrumb, leading the investigators deeper into a web of suspicion. These initial findings painted a complex picture. The barefoot man, the flash of light, Hartsfield's car in the vicinity, and the fire-related Google searches. Each piece of evidence seemed to point towards Hartsfield. But the puzzle was far from complete. The investigators needed more, something to tie these disparate pieces together. Little did they know, more surprises awaited them. And then, the digital breadcrumbs. Fire-related searches on Hartsfield's Google account. The plot thickens. With mounting evidence, the police turned their attention to Hartsfield, but he maintained his innocence. The spotlight shifted to Hartsfield, the once sympathetic figure who had seemingly lost everything in an unfortunate fire. The police had their suspicions, but Hartsfield was adamant. He was not the culprit. He claimed that he was at home when the fire broke out, far from the scene of the incident. His alibi was simple, but the police had their doubts. Hartsfield was not just claiming innocence, he was suggesting a much darker narrative. Before the fire, he had reported break-ins, theft, and vandalism of his food truck and office. He had found what he believed to be a noose, and being a black man, he had raised the possibility of a hate crime. These incidents, he claimed, were not mere coincidence but a malicious campaign against him. But Hartsfield's narrative didn't just stop at pointing fingers at unknown culprits. He also took aim at the investigators themselves. He claimed that his statements to the police placing him at the scene of the fire were not admissions of guilt, but rather false confessions, the result of coercion. He accused the investigators of having tunnel vision, of focusing solely on him and ignoring other potential suspects. They had their guy and they were going to make sure of it no matter what, he told the jury. His defense was passionate, his claims disturbing. But the question remained, were these the protestations of an innocent man, wrongfully accused, or the desperate attempts of a guilty man to divert attention from his own wrongdoing? Hartsfield's narrative was one of victimhood and injustice, a narrative that, if true, painted a grim picture of prejudice and bias. But the investigators and the prosecution were not swayed. They had their evidence, their surveillance footage, and their suspicions. And yet, the prosecution was not convinced. They argued that the evidence told a different story. A story of a man who had allegedly set his own food truck ablaze, who had allegedly lied and manipulated, all for financial gain. The stage was set for a trial that would bring the truth to light. In court, both sides presented their arguments. Hartsfield, representing himself, stood firm in his innocence. The trial of Avante Hartsfield was a complex one, with a myriad of accusations and counterclaims. Hartsfield, a 27-year-old San Diego food truck vendor, argued that his confession to the police was coerced and false. He maintained that he was at home when the fire started, and that any statements he made placing himself at the scene were incorrect. He claimed that the surveillance footage only showed a portion of the area and accused the investigators of having tunnel vision, focusing solely on him and failing to investigate other potential suspects. They had their guy, and they were going to make sure of it no matter what, he told the jury. On the other side, Deputy District Attorney Judy Tashner presented a different narrative. Tashner argued that Hartsfield was not a victim, but the perpetrator of the fire that destroyed his food truck. She pointed to the surveillance video that showed a man, later identified as Hartsfield, approaching the truck just moments before a flash of light signaled the start of the fire. A vehicle matching Hartsfield's was also seen in the area before and after the fire. Tashner also brought up the digital evidence revealing fire-related searches on Hartsfield's Google account, including terms like "quick car explosion," just a week before the fire. She dismissed Hartsfield's claim that a rice cooker had sparked the fire, stating that a fire investigator found that the science didn't support this theory. The allegations of break-ins and vandalism that Hartsfield claimed occurred before the fire were also addressed. Tashner highlighted that the police had investigated these claims but found no evidence to support them. She also dismissed Hartsfield's suggestion that he had been the target of a hate crime. The trial was a battle of narratives, with each side presenting their arguments and evidence to the jury. Hartsfield standing alone in his defense against the weight of the prosecution's evidence and argument. The jury, after deliberating, returned with a verdict, guilty. The decision was unanimous. Avante Hartsfield, once a beloved food truck vendor, was found guilty of arson, insurance fraud, and grand theft. His fate was sealed, and he was ordered to remain in custody without bail, awaiting sentencing in March. A shocking end to a tale that began with a devastating fire and a community's outpouring of support. Convicted of arson, insurance fraud, and grand theft, Hartsfield now faces more than 7 years in custody. The stark reality of the verdict has descended not only on Hartsfield but also on the community that rallied around him, believing in his innocence. The shockwaves of this verdict reverberate far and wide, leaving a lingering question: how did it all go so wrong? Hartsfield, once a beacon of the community, a vegan food truck vendor who brought joy to the streets of San Diego, is now seen in a completely different light. The sympathy and support that flooded in after the fire have been replaced with a sense of disbelief and betrayal. The donations, including the generous $20,000 from the Sicuan band of the Kumeyaay Nation, now feel like a bitter pill to swallow for those who gave from their hearts. The implications of this verdict go beyond the man himself. It brings into focus the power and potential misuse of social media and crowdfunding platforms. It serves as a stark reminder that not all stories are as they first appear, and that it's crucial to wait for the full picture before passing judgment or extending support. The story of Hartsfield took an unexpected turn on February 10, 2024, when he was arrested and jailed. The reason behind this arrest wasn't immediately clear, adding yet another layer of mystery to this convoluted tale. Following the verdict, Judge Kimberly Legata ordered Hartsfield to remain in custody without bail, a decision that solidified the gravity of his crimes. The journey from a devastating fire to a damning verdict has been a roller coaster ride, a saga that has gripped San Diego and beyond. As Hartsfield awaits his sentencing in March, he will have plenty of time to reflect on the series of events that led him here, from the alleged hate crimes to his own undoing. A shocking turn of events, isn't it? From a beloved community figure to a convicted felon. As the curtain falls on this chapter of Hartsfield's life, we're left to ponder the twists and turns that led to this moment, and to question what lies ahead for the man once known as the heart of San Diego's vegan food scene. This case raises many questions about trust, community support, and the pursuit of justice. It's a stark reminder that appearances can be deceiving, and the truth often lies beneath the surface. A food truck, a symbol of one man's livelihood, reduced to ashes. A community rallying to support, only to find their goodwill exploited. It's a narrative that leaves us questioning the very fabric of trust and unity that binds us together. Yet, it also underscores the resilience of a system that seeks to uncover the truth. The investigation into Avante Hartsfield's case was far from straightforward. It was a puzzle that required meticulous assembly, with each piece of evidence bringing us closer to the truth. The surveillance footage, the fire-related Google searches, the inconsistencies in Hartsfield's statements, all of these were crucial elements that painted a picture of deceit and manipulation. It's important to remember that the cornerstone of any investigation is evidence. It's what separates fact from fiction, the innocent from the guilty. In this case, it was the surveillance footage and the digital footprints that led the investigators to Hartsfield. It's a reminder of how in today's digital age, our actions, no matter how discreet, leave a trail. Yet, justice is not just about finding the guilty, it's also about ensuring that the innocent are not wrongfully accused. Hartsfield's argument about the investigators suffering from tunnel vision brings up an important point. While the evidence pointed towards him, it's essential for investigators to explore all possibilities, to ensure that no stone is left unturned. This case also raises questions about the role of community support. The community rallied behind Hartsfield in his time of need, only to find their trust betrayed. It's a stark reminder that while our empathy and willingness to help are what make us human, they can also make us vulnerable. What do you think about this case? Share your thoughts in the comments. Remember, every perspective adds to our understanding of the truth.